Surprise, surprise, surprise. The C3 Panthers podcast is live again on a night unexpected. We go live every night. At least I am committed to going live every night. Tonight, I just wanted to jump on and have a little discussion about kind of the culture of social media, the culture of, um, I guess, that fabric of the media where what we've all been trying through to pierce through this change. There's been a disruption to traditional media since the internet was created, and today, 420, right? Is there an irony there? Is Elon Musk a pothead? Is he taking bong hits and making big decisions about Twitter? Today is the day that they eliminated legacy check marks. And I just felt like I wanted to talk a little bit about the meaning of the C3 Panthers podcast. Some of the things that we've done. Look, Joe Riolano, my brother, I mean, really, like there's two people in my life that I consider like my best, closest friends. And it's Joe Riolano and my boy Jason Harris. These people are so important to me. He's in here right now. When we started the C3 Panthers podcast, we started it as just a discussion, our own discussion, really. As I just said, hey, man, this internet thing, it sounds like an old guy saying it now. The internet thing is a way for us to have a hobby, I guess, keep up with each other and do what we love. Or, just Joey and I would just talk at halftime in the 2012, 2013, call each other at halftime. He had moved to Charleston. I said, let's record this shit. Actually, we started with a written website. So we've been grinding. I remember my two first Twitter followers, Steve Daner and Chocolate Wonderland, aka Panther Nasty, who may or may not have made a surprise appearance in the chat room on the C3 Panthers podcast last night. Don't forget, the C3 Panthers podcast is the longest running Panthers podcast. It's been going live. We've had a live show every week for 11 years. Think about that. We've done it more and more consistently than the fucking Panthers themselves. Sorry, I shouldn't have cursed there. Sorry, Mom. That's why we call it the longest running Panthers podcast. And we've expanded our content. But Twitter has always been my favorite platform. It's been my favorite platform. It just felt exactly in the lane that I wanted this show to be, which is just a fan discussion, having fun. I never strove for the blue check mark. I never saw it as a badge of honor. And a lot of people believe that the blue check mark validated their opinions. And today, Twitter decided to remove the blue check mark. Not decided, they've let you know about this all. I felt like the people that are crying about this thought they wouldn't do it. They're like, oh, Elon, man, you ain't met Elon Musk yet. This mug is gonna do it. Like he got that fuck you money, bro. And my opinion vacillates on Elon Musk so much, right? It's like I think he's like a forward thinker in one hand. On the other hand, I think he's just like kind of like Rain Man with a bunch of money, and another hand, like the Spectrum Boy. So I don't know how much to credit him. In some ways, I think some of the successes in life are it's clearly he's an intelligent person. Clearly he's a very hard worker. So I don't want to diminish him. But some times are timing, being in the right place at the right time. They say sometimes that C students make big businesses while A students work for C students because they have the ability to take the risk. So when it comes to Elon Musk, is like I don't know how to feel about him sometimes. But to be honest, I've swung back to the pro Elon Musk side because I feel like so much of people we we're barrage people with a group think about life, right? And it's like, oh, well, you don't believe what I think about the I mean, look at even with the vaccine and COVID, is that it was like you're either on team right or you're on team ostracize. And what I do think about Elon Musk is he's got that fuck you money enough to where he can say, fuck, ultimately, fuck you, New York Times. Like, yeah, you are resting on your laurels about your reputation. I think it's been funny watching his battle with NPR and the Canadian News Network, which they said they were less than 70% funded. And he added to their bio or something or to their description in their check mark, he said 69% government funded. So I don't know how to feel about Elon Musk, but look, he bought Twitter with his FU money. And the company was not making money, clearly. Twitter was a great product. I still love Twitter, but I do love the simplicity that Twitter was before Elon Musk took over. Right? I almost feel like is I hate Facebook. The one platform I cannot stand is Facebook. And not because the people in the discussion, it's like it's so complicated. You get on the computer, I can't find anything. It's too robust. And there was a beauty and simplicity when it came to Twitter and that streamline, just simple and sweet. This is what I'm thinking about. You can retweet, you can like. I wanted a thumbs down button at point. I wanted an edit button. I like some of those things. Some of these changes are all right. I'm not going to lie. But the simplicity, there was beauty and simplicity there. But the reason I did this show tonight, and actually I don't know, I just miss talking with Panther fans. And look, shout out to Evans Sports Talk. Shout out to my brother Joe Riolano. Shout out to Tyler Jones, Tim Estes, Loco. The reason I did this tonight is because first, I was lonely. I just want to hang out with Panther fans. Second, I am tired and exhausted by the people with the most crying the loudest. And today, all I have heard from people I only listen, not only, it's not like I only listen to sports media, but one of the beautiful things about my Twitter feed is that it's really only Carolina Panther fans. It's really neat. I wonder if I would like Twitter as much if I didn't have the podcast and I didn't have that central kind of focus or unity of, I don't know, position. Somebody once told me this is that Facebook was the place where you knew everybody that you were friends with, you knew them personally, but you hated them. And Twitter was all the people you didn't know, but you loved. And Twitter's just been my platform. And I think we just tend to gravitate. Look, is my son, he's younger, he's 15 years old. These kids use Snapchat instead of text messaging. I think Snapchat's for hoes, by the way. Why you gotta hide some? Nah. But so Twitter is my platform. But as I started the C3 Panthers podcast, as Joey and I started Carolina Cat Chronicles in 2013, this was our first foray. We were trying to figure it out as we went. And I've invested my most energy in Twitter. And that's why our followers on Twitter, like I hate Facebook, and it's a personal thing. It's probably a hindrance to my own effort to further the podcast and Carolina Cat Chronicles, because I don't just love Facebook. I'm on Facebook because I have to be. I'm on Twitter because I love Twitter. So today, though, hearing people cry and whine about not having the blue check mark, it's the day of reckoning. I think they didn't believe that Elon Musk was actually going to do it. I think they were trying to make him fold. But wine, get me. I used to work at this restaurant, Marathon. It's a Greek restaurant. It's an awesome place. What was this guy's name I used to work with? I cannot remember his name. He was a white rapper. White rapper used to carry that, that 89-cent composition book, the black and white one that's got like it looks like speckled on the front. He used to carry this folded up, and this is 2001. He kept it folded in half in his back pocket. God, what was this name? He was so cool, but he was also like so ridiculous in his own way. That's why he was cool. And he was like, "This is where I keep all my rhymes at." Like we're working at it. He's like, I was like, "What's up with the notebook?" He's like, "This is where I keep my rhymes at." And he said this, "Get me," and then he was read one of them to me. I still remember. He said, "Get me some cheese for all these wine and crackers." And that's how I feel about this damn blue check mark. Get these mugs some cheese for all these wine and crackers. All these people have just been used to algorithm bumps, privilege, and I don't even care, man. What I would just say is this, is that why are you upset that they took it away? If it doesn't matter to you, why are you upset that they took it away? And look, I'm the cheapest mofo in the world. You ain't gonna find a mug that is cheap. I mean, I'm like Little Dicky and Save That Money. I mean, you don't want to go out with me and put a beer on my tab. I'll be like, bro, I didn't pay for that beer. I'm a cheap ass. In fact, one of the one of the things that was like a goal when I started CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Originally, it was started on Blogspot by Google. And my goal was to build the podcast and the brand and the website for zero money out of pocket. And I did it. I mean, we did it. We didn't pay a damn cent for the first 2 or 3 years. But then you just realize that the $40 or $50 you would pay a month or $200 a year actually was just worth it. It was just too much work to, and things have become so professionalized. Look, I'm using StreamYard. We used to do this in back basically. The C3 Panthers podcast was like the back alley abortion version of podcast in the old days. And I know people don't remember it, but in 2013, live streaming was wild, man. You had to figure it out. There wasn't a lot of ways to make it streamlined. So I've been on these streets grinding, man, working for building the C3 Panthers podcast, trying to build that Twitter brand. Again, Steve Daner and Chocolate Express, Chocolate Wonderland first Twitter followers. So I've been on them streets. And I always say this is the C3 Panthers podcast is one like, one subscribe at a time. One Twitter follower at a time. So today I'm out there, I'm checking my feeds, I'm listening to sports radio, and all I hear is a bunch of wine and crackers when it comes to the blue check mark. And look, I understand. Fuck it. Welcome to our world, bitch. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Welcome to our world. Like, look, we've had to pay for streaming. We've had to do all of this to try to get our voice heard in the least bit. And these people have giant platforms. They've got giant platforms, and this is what's on their mind. So why are they truly upset? I'm not really sure. Half of these people work for entities that have a paywall for their business. And look, I'm not going to try to look. As the Charlotte Observer is a business making venture. They need to charge. I mean, if that's the way that the world is moving, they need to charge. I just feel like this is that I just wanted to get up here and talk about this and just give you guys. Somebody asked this. No, I'm not drunk. Not drunk. I wish I was. I'm working on it though. Working on it. Somebody said, what does this have to do with the Panthers? Kyle L. Put your comment up. Yeah, I don't know if it has to do with the Carolina Panthers as much as it has to do with the C3 Panthers podcast. And what I would just say is this, is we've been the person that didn't have the check mark. And not that I even wanted the check mark. I actually paid for it. was a tough decision, guys. I'm gonna let you in. Honestly, I struggled with the decision because, again, I told you I'm a cheap ass mofo. I've been on the streets grinding. I didn't have the blue check mark. It didn't mean anything to me. But I tell you, once they started selling Twitter Blue, I saw that the engagement went down. Like, and Twitter's our platform. It's a way for us to get our content out. It might not be the best one. Maybe we invested too much time into Twitter, but I have invested a lot of energy, and that's my go-to. So for me, the $8 just turned out to not be behind the eight ball anymore, which we already were. And I just wanted to say that, like, these people, I don't know, man, I don't have any animosity to them. I saw this. Actually, I do have a little animosity to someone I actually kind of like is Doug Gottlieb, who is somewhat controversial, former college basketball player, um, college basketball analyst. He got in some trouble in college. I think he stole a credit card. So basically, think like the same circumstances kind of that hit Cam Newton, like a small infraction when he was in college to a big college player. And no one's sitting there. And this is where we would talk. This is where we pull out our defenders and this is where we pull out our Cam Newton defender group. It's like, nobody exercised Doug Gottlieb because he stole somebody's credit card and used it, but you want to talk about Cam Newton's character for the stolen laptop. Doug Gottlieb has been on this. He's not happy about the blue check. And what he thinks is the blue check is important to telling people in the world, giving them a message of kind of a symbol of whose opinion is valid and has weight, who has an authority and who doesn't. And this is what I got mad about. And then people were, I've been seeing some things today. One is that this is what's been fantastic about the internet, right? Is, again, you guys know I'm a teacher and I teach history. We talk about what the printing press did for the world. I tell my students all the time, and what I emphasize is this: is the printing press democratized information, right? So it made information cheaper. It took it from the ivory towers and made it more accessible to regular people. And that's why you see people after the invention of the printing press, like, learning to read actually becomes a thing that could help you in life, right? It's an asset. The internet not only continued this legacy of democratizing information, but what it did, and this is the disruptive force of this, is it democratized the source of information. It democratized the voice. And so Doug Gottlieb's out here saying, well, look, I want to make sure that people know that my take is an informed and professional one and that these other jokers are just saying shit. And okay, everybody just says shit on the internet. But I want to say this is that Doug Gottlieb, shouldn't your take show us that you are a professional, right? Is this not a sort of capitalism of the internet? And I guess this is just me being irritated with the forces that I've had to face in trying to build the C3 Panthers podcast. Is we're unknown. We're trying to build from nothing, right? And these people have the luxury of brands that are established by their networks or whatever it may be. But I just wanted to say this: is I'm really irritated by these wine and crackers. Because what happened today? What happened today? You either pay the $8 or you become one of us. You become one of us. You become welcome to being a plebeian. You're a patrician. You were a patrician, and now you're a plebeian. So I sucked it up and paid the $8 just because it is worth it this has been my main platform of discussion for the Carolina Panthers. And I hate all the other ones. Like, what am I gonna do on Instagram? Just gonna look at hoes. What am I doing on Facebook? Just talk to people I hate? No. Right? So I guess this is it, and thank you. Peanut Butter Hero says, "I tune in every Friday just to hear your Panthers take." He said, "I got a brand on, Pirate Radio," and thank you very much for that. We do. You know what? We have been fighting hard for our brand. We made it. We built it. And we appreciate and, look at this, 57 people tuning in right now, and thank you guys for any attention, either good, bad, or what indifferent. I just want to talk for a moment about the people who cry the loudest, seemingly have the most. And again, I told you guys I'm a historian. My and this is just an insight. And I don't even want to make it look. Everybody's like, "Why are you doing this?" There are going to be like 97 comments about why aren't you talking about the Panthers? We'll talk about it in a second. But when the colonists is I'm a revolutionary historian, like pre-revolution really is my game. Like right before leading up to the War for Independence, 1760s, the time of protesting. Look, the 60s are wild, folks. Just want to let you know the 60s are always wild. The 1760s, the colonists were going crazy. The 1860s were fighting a civil war going into Reconstruction. The 1960s, they're burning bras and fighting for equality. I wonder what the 2060s are going to be like. Just put it in your book. The 60s are always wild. Um, But there was this one comment a guy made in Parliament when he was talking about the colonists crying about their political rights. And he said, "Isn't it wild that the loudest yelps the loudest yelps for freedom come from the drivers of slaves?" And clearly, I'm not trying to relate the blue check to slavery. But I always am like, "God, y'all are some whiny ass bitches that got everything." Nobody's in here worried about us 5 years ago who have been putting in real work, who have not tried to make to like we're not like we've tried to professionalize our stuff. Nobody's in worried about us being able to get a blue check, and nor was I even interested in a blue check. The only reason I just don't want to be pushed down in the algorithm. That's it. The entire reason. I care nothing. You could block out the blue check on me. I wish like, I don't even care if it shows up. What I want is just this, is that my opinion to have a democratic opportunity to win. And this is what I would tell Doug Gottlieb is stop resting on your laurels and have a fucking great opinion. And what I am ultimately recognizing too is that it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom of payment for Twitter. And I've struggled and wrestled with this. Struggled and wrestled with this because Twitter is my favorite. And I also wondered this is what if they just made you pay for Twitter in general? What if you just had to pay $8 to use it? Would you use it? And I think that we would probably hope that another free opportunity, again, super cheap Tony here, we would be looking for another platform to switch to just that was free. I mean, I didn't, I just realized this, guys, is Truth, the Truth social network that Trump started. It really does exist. I thought he was just talking about the shit and they just had nope, it's still there or it's there. I had no idea. Just so I guess we do gravitate to free opportunities, but there is an argument too, is Twitter worth $8 or is it worth a payment? And I listened to this cool podcast once. It's called Reply All. I don't think it still exists anymore, but it's changed names. And it's part of the Gimlet Media. So these guys broke off from NPR and then made this network early. So they're really forward-thinking people about what podcasts can be. And in this Reply All episode, what they just the premise of the episode was to just catch up with people or talk about cool shit that happens on the internet, like tech, internet, cool stories. So they've done crypto stories, they've done the dark net, they've done like, I mean, like these things. And the one story that, and let me read some of these content. He says, I see what you're saying. Truth, bro. Thank you. I keep debating pay for YouTube. Oh, all right. So the one story that this was a cool story that was on the Reply All podcast, and they caught up with the individual who invented the pop-up advertisement. Literally, and this was the coolest episode. The guy that invented the thing that destroyed our way of life, right? Is like he is, in fact, the guy, and I forget his name, at one point wrote an apology to the world that was published like in the New York Times. Like, I'm sorry, I'm the person that wrote the code for the pop-up ad. And kids, it's not as bad these days, but you remember, boy, you used to click on a website and pop, 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 and you search it. And there's still an element there. There's still an element there of the internet where you're like, is this the fake X or the real X? How do I close out of this ad without accidentally clicking on it? So this is awesome, man. The story of the pop-up ad comes from this guy, and I wish I knew the name of the company that he worked for. They were early internet company, kind of like a blogger. Like when I say blogspot, like an actual, like they're one of the first people in the 90s where you could build your own web pages. And they opened it up to the world, right? Is like you can build your own web page. Very simple. Just think like if you could build a simple blog post, kind of like what was the social media we used to use where I didn't ever get on it. I was too young, a little too young before Facebook. What was the one before Facebook? It was we all had people had a page. It's like kind of your own personal website. Anyway, so people could make these free blog pages on the internet, and this was so the way this business model was going to work is they wanted to sell direct advertisement to companies like Coca-Cola, MySpace. Thank you, Panther Pickle. Thank you, D's Ill Skills. MySpace. So they wanted to sell direct advertisement to these companies, and they were like, look, the internet's going to be a thing. We're building a site where anybody could build a page on anything, and you could get your brand name out in so many places, in so many different worlds, right? And so when they developed this website, they included a feature because they're trying to get you to see the people who are even using it. They're trying to get you to see how cool it can be. And I think Google has a something like this where it's like a random page, like where you hit a button, it just takes you to a random website. It's just kind of a fun thing to do, is like step outside your box and maybe try something different. So they put this button, it was just random page button. And so the way the story went, and I heard it on this podcast, is that this guy's like in Detroit at like Ford, or is in front of a big company like Ford or Coca-Cola or something. And he's trying to sell like, hey, we're going to give you ad space on this, like where you can buy ad space. And he was trying to show the functionality of the website. And he hit the random generate button. And this is something you got to learn, folks, is that uh, people who like porn realize they always figure out how to use technology before anybody. So when he hit random generate, it went to a porn site, and he's sitting there in front of like CEOs trying to sell ad space. And so they came up, the problem that they ran into, what they wanted to do is this. It's like, so if Coca-Cola bought an ad and it was on that porn page, it's an endorsement of that idea. So they said, we have to figure out a way to make ads different, like separate and mental, like psychologically separate from whatever the content you're viewing. So they gave this to a coder, and this guy came up with the ideas. What if the pop-up was a completely different web page that jumped in front of you? So it's not part of the page. So they can still advertise. Maybe when you look at porn, you might still see it, but the Coca-Cola company kind of has a what is it? Whatever the plausibility is. So how does this relate to the blue check? You guys are all wondering. This is how my students think of me. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Where are we going with this? The thing that the pop-up ad, and this is why he wrote the apology for, is that he did this in a time where the internet was still kind of the wild, wild west. They were trying to figure out how it was going to be profitable. And for a long time, people thought that websites would be paid for like we are doing today, right? Is like memberships, paywalls, joins, things like this. The pop-up, what it did is it created the free verse of the internet. It put the onerous or the responsibility of the monetary component on the advertisers. So it went to an advertisement model. And that's why we think everything on the internet should be free. And I'm one of those people is like, fuck that. I don't want to pay for shit. So this kind of to bring this back to the blue check is the question is like this is kind of an ethos thing is should everything on the internet be just entirely free? We do gravitate, but then those companies have to make money through advertising. So there's a payment somewhere. Who is going to pay for it? And I'll just finish with this when it comes to the blue check is that I just want to be clear that myself, I was very resistant. In fact, I had to internally break some of my principles and ideologies to pay this money, this $8. But I've invested so much in Twitter throughout the last 10 years, and it's the one thing I actually use. Like, it's the app I open every day. I don't open TikTok every day. I don't open Facebook every day. I don't open Instagram. In fact, our content doesn't even really gravitate towards those things enough. It's YouTube. I'm a YouTube and Twitter person. So I just thought this is the $8 was worth having a chance in the algorithm. And I wanted to ice up these whining crackers today who lost their blue checks. And somehow it is a knock to their self-esteem, to their self-worth. Well, welcome to the fucking plebeian world, bitches. Democracy of the internet, democracy of voice, and the C3 Panthers podcast putting out content all the time. And you know what? Doug Gottlieb, I'll go toe to toe with you on Twitter. And if you don't like what I got to say, don't follow it. That's the thing. It's like, who cares? What I've learned as I get older is the people who tell us they are authority figures aren't qualified. Think of all the crap that we have just gone through with the pandemic, and I'm not going to debate over all this, but like you got people they were so sure of themselves. They were so sure they were the authorities on everything. You can go to this is how many CEOs, how many presidents of colleges don't know what the fuck they're really doing. How many general managers in the NFL are barely better? And I'm just saying this is that if your voice is that valuable and that insightful, it should win alone. We don't need Doug Gottlieb for you to remind us you're an authority. We got it. If you really are an authority on college basketball, which you are, then your take should be so much better than mine. Get off your high horses, folks. And I'm not saying pay the $8. I'll be interested in this is like, I hope that these people stick to their guns so much that then I don't have to pay the $8 in the coming future because I don't want to pay the $8. I just don't want to try to find another app right now. So look, the C3 Panthers podcast is live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Right now, a couple of things that are going down on the website. C3D's ill skills, way to represent the gang. Joe Riolano, you got to put the C3 in your name now. Join the gang, bro. You're the founder. You're the original Crip walking on this. Cool story about Nicole Tepper's involvement in the offseason and how it's been a positive influence. And I put out today a story which I'm very proud of. And when I say very proud, I don't want to over crazy, but like sometimes I hit a take that isn't just for news, right? It's like sometimes when you're a newsy person, right? It's just like you're just keeping up with what's going on, and maybe you don't have like the creative insight or something. It's just like almost like you have to make the post. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna show it to you real quick. There we go. Pretty, and when I say proud, like, I'm very proud of, like, first of all, everything we do on the C3 Panthers podcast, but Cody came up with this take yesterday, and I was like, "Man, you gotta say it on the podcast even if you're not ready to make the entire argument," is that Bryce Young and Cam Newton are polar opposites because it's such a cool take on things. Um, this is one of those takes or those angles I'm proud of because I feel like I just arrived at it myself, without outside influence. And I'm just trying to give you guys what I think about things. The story I put up, so go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com. You can help us. Look, you can help us by just subscribing, smashing the thumbs up button. We're here on Tuesday nights, Friday nights, game days, putting out look, we were here last night doing a mock draft battle. Today, I'm here just bitching and moaning about society and the blue checks and wine and crackers. But one way you can support the podcast and us is just to go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com and here. They don't want you to know this. But if you go here and look here, look, pop up that guy, the ruining of our life. If you find it, look, and when you're reading a story and you see an advertisement, if you click on that and they know my IP address, they don't know yours. That's like 25 cents, 50 cents. Actually, the best way. What's it hurt you guys to click on an ad, right? The story that I put up today that I'm very excited about is From Newton to Now. Why the Carolina Panthers #1 pick in the 2023 NFL draft carries even more weight. And one of the things that what I like about this is, and I truly believe this, is that the Panthers, whoever they select at #1, the pressure and the expectations are even higher than they were for Cam Newton. The Carolina Panthers have picked #1 twice in their history. They've had the #1 pick 3 times. They traded out of it their original year. They traded out of it. They gave it to Cincy. If we would have kept it, we could have gotten McNair, I wonder how things would have gone differently for the Carolina Panthers if we would have gotten Steve McNair instead of who was the guy? He was all right, Kerry Collins, but the drunk racist that ended up being good in New York rather than Carolina. But we picked twice #1 overall in our history. The last time was in 2011 when we selected Cam Newton. And the team was coming off a 2-14 season. Cam Newton was coming off a Heisman year, a national championship. He was at the highest of high points. The Carolina Panthers were at the lowest of low points. And there were questions, though, that Cam Newton's game was predicated on athleticism. In fact, give kudos to Cam Newton for being one of the most important people in NFL history and destroying the kind of ethos or preconceptions about black quarterbacks and black mobile quarterbacks. In fact, you heard Bryce Young talk about some of the things that black quarterbacks faced or face when he gave his Heisman speech. And think about this. Imagine he's given that speech before. I mean, wonder what Warren Moon would say or Randall Cunningham would say or what Mike Vick would say or Cam Newton would say. Cam Newton was very important to the process of us being comfortable with different types of games, like styles of play, different looks physically at the position. I mean, Cam Newton could throw the football through a piece of plywood and run over a defender, any defender. He could have played defensive end in some ways. But I truly believe this is Cam Newton came in to a team 2-14. That was getting a new coaching staff, unknown coaching staff, Ron Rivera, paltry talent all around. The team was terrible the year before. The expectations were certainly high for Cam Newton. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The expectations for Cam Newton were crazy high, right? I mean, they are for any number one pick. In fact, you're either a number one, you're either immense success or a massive failure, as I wrote in this piece. So go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com and check this out. But my point being is that I think that whoever we select at number one is actually going to be facing more pressure and higher expectations than even Cam Newton was. And that's bananas to say out loud. It's bananas. You say, "Oh, no, no, they shouldn't." They're both right. Is that yes, in some ways is that you shouldn't compare people to other people only. But Cam Newton was our greatest quarterback of all time. Let's just be honest. Is like we all love Jake Delhomme, but he's the best quarterback. He's arguably one of the best three top players in team history. The pressure was there for Cam, but we knew we sucked as a team. And there was also kind of questions about his play. There was some trepidation, there was some reserve about, oh, is this going to actually translate? Fast forward 12 years to 2023. And one is the pressure is going to be far more, particularly if we draft Bryce Young. Because everybody has told us that he is brilliant, he's cerebral, he understands the game. He sounds like the guy that you're pitching to us because he's plug and play. He is right now just going to fall in step, no lag. There's a sort of grace that accompanies upside players and developmental players. I think we would have given it to Cam a little bit at that moment because people were saying, I don't know if he's going to transition. But you know what Cam did? He just came out and won Rookie of the Year, then went on to be MVP and lead the team to the Super Bowl. So here's the thing. This is why one of the reasons that this new pick is going to face even more pressure and expectations is one, that they will always be compared to Cam Newton. That will always be the measuring stick, just like Luke Kuechly will be the measuring stick of all linebackers until someone surpasses him. So they've got that. They're living in the shadow of Cam. And then people are going to come in here and be like, oh, well, Cam, look, his last years are injury and this and that. Well, you know what? Is that he took over offensive rookie year, MVP, Super Bowl appearance, right? Is like that is the men. Like you gotta be anything less than that. And I've got to say is then why is he a butt or why is he not good? That pick, whoever they are, is going to be like that expectation. But there's another thing that comes to this. And that is we've been ridiculously excited about this coaching staff, the pedigree, the accomplishments, their resume seems so impressive. We're not talking about like Ron Rivera, non-coach, we didn't know what to see. Is that I think if Bryce Young is selected as the number one pick, the most pressure in the history of the Carolina Panthers organization will be upon him. How much patience are you going to have? And I'm not saying this, and I'm not saying like if he doesn't do great right away that you give up on him. But isn't the expectation immediate success? And what you don't even have to translate that to just exact wins. But like you don't want to see him look in over his head right away. We expect him to look better than all the rookie quarterbacks out there, right? Which you would say that about any number one pick overall. But say we selected Anthony Richardson. I think there would be an inherent grace that came with it for Panther fans that we said, you know what? The payoff is later on. It doesn't have to be right now. The reason that you would select Bryce Young is because it's the now that he gives you. So I think that the weight of this pick, trading up to number one, the coaching staff, the more talent on the play, like I'm not trying to diminish the expectations and weight that was on Cam Newton. They were incredible. And you know what? He exceeded them. this quarterback, whoever they are, the weight is going to be real. And I think there's an argument that the expectations and the pressure of this pick are more than any other in Carolina Panthers history. All right, I want to shout out to some people. Twan Don, thanks for having us on. Check out the 704 Charlotte Bound podcast. Shout out to Sea Dog. Smash the like, thumbs up button. General Zod. Nervosh. Go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com and check out. Just wanted to show you guys some other stories we've worked on. It's pretty fun. Hey, and if any of you guys are interested in contributing and writing, what we're just trying to do is, again, I started this in 2013. The website actually was the first thing we started, and we were trying to make like a fan website, and it turned out that podcasting and video creation was our lane. But if you're interested in contributing, the only thing we want, Carol, we're trying to keep it alive. I don't want to ever close it down. We just want to be a place where fans can put out their take. That's it. The only thing you got to do is be a fan of the Carolina Panthers and have a take. There's no expectation of contribution, regular, we want to make it a discussion. So right now, the stories up there are from Newton to now, why the Carolina Panthers #1 pick in the 2023 NFL draft carries even more weight, more than a trophy wife. Nicole Tepper's key role in the Panthers' future. Bryce Young sends a message, cancels all draft meetings, firmly believes he'll be the #1 pick. How about this? Shout out to Connor, the next generation of C3. 3 blockbuster trade scenarios that the Carolina Panthers should be in on. So go check out CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Don't forget, tomorrow night, the Friday free-for-all, Cody joining his cult. I'm going to try to be up in that mug. I'm always trying. It turns out it's so popular, I can't even get a seat in my own show. And I love that. I love that I don't even have to love watching and hearing from you guys. Don't forget, Tuesday night, C3 Panthers podcast, 252-228-5098. Smash the thumbs up button, subscribe, leave a comment. And one cool thing you can do is just share the link to the show and say, hey, man, Panther fans, unite. Panthers voice. Rising tide lifts all boats. Go check out 704 Charlotte Bound Show. Check out all the creators. Have an opinion, because this is a great time. Imagine, oh my gosh, there's at least excitement in there. My name's Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. I miss Cody Lashney, my producer, because I would say, take me out of here. I guess I'll take myself out of here.